Hello and welcome to the Capital Games Podcast. I'm the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero, how are you doing, my friend?
I am on the slow grind to get to rank 7 in Monster Hunter Rise.
That's a good man. All right. Doing it for the cause. Well, actually, Monster Hunter Rise is fun, too, so there you go.
Well, that and Sunbreak requires rank 7, so
Yeah,
got no choice.
Yeah, man. I really, I understand why they do it, but I kind of wish they would ease up on that and just say, hey, if you own it, you can play it. So there you go. But all right, whatever. Well, since you're playing Monster Hunter Rise and you're not there at Sunbreak yet, I went ahead and thought maybe it's my time to contribute to this podcast in a game playing sort of way. A surprise announcement happened last week, and one of my favorite games of all time got a single player expansion, and that's Gwent. Gwent got its Rogue Mage expansion, and what it is basically, it's the card game Gwent, but in a single player roguelike. And I've been playing that basically all week, and I've been really enjoying it. I guess we'll go through it real quick. Basically, if you've played Gwent, it's a card. If you haven't played Gwent, it's a card game where there's two lanes on each side, and you put in cards to attack or do moves or specialties from those cards in order to get a higher score than the other person. And what they do in this basically with Gwent, and like with most card games, it's about synergizing with cards. Basically getting different combos set together to make more points or do more damage to the other player. And there's lots of strategy involved in that. As someone who played Gwent for years, I've been playing for years now, it definitely was fun. But the issue I have with it, mainly because I want more people to play Gwent, because I think it's really good. This game does the barest of minimum to get people into Gwent to understand how to play the game. I mean, they'll go over like the basics to basically say, hey, this is how you put down a card. This is what happens when you do this card, and this, this and that. But they don't go over about synergies and combos and special moves and stuff like that. You have to learn all of that on your own. And for some, that might be a cool thing because you want to dive into something and really learn how to play. But I don't think that would really work in a single-player expansion very well. I think you'd really want to go into granular detail about how certain things work and why this is a good idea to do X and maybe not Y. So I think if you're not well versed into Gwent, you may have a bit of a learning curve to play the game. But other than that, I mean, for a single player Gwent game, I really enjoy it. I'm having a lot of fun playing it. But that's also because I'm so well versed into Gwent that it was just like coming back home and playing a game that I used to play. I'm not even kidding. Every day for years, and just love the hell out of it. So, yeah, I mean, that's really all I have with Gwent Rogue Mage. Do you have questions there, Zero?
No. I thought Gwent was always kind of fun. I didn't really play very much of it. I think I played it when it initially launched, which, again, super neat game. Just card games can get a little bit in the weeds for me because just when you get into combos, mechanics, certain metas you want to build, it ends up being it ends up, I guess you could say, becoming like side quest city for me, where I'm just like, oh man, I'd love to build that, but I'm so close to this one. Maybe I'll focus on this one and then try to do some things and get this other build going, and then it just kind of goes all over the place. So it's one of those things that, as much as I would love to just play some more Gwent and possibly pick up the single player expansion, I just fear it would just be side quest city for me.
What do you mean exactly by side quest city? Like you mean like you'll get distracted and not be able to complete it, or what do you mean by that exactly?
Essentially, I'll either get wrapped up into building one meta, and then it'll be, hey, I'm so close to finishing up this other deck. Hey, I should do that, and then, oh, hey, but this quest looks interesting. I should do this because it gives me more packs. Just, I guess you could say, sort of like an ADHD effect, where I'm just too thinned out and not really focused on one zone.
Well, then in that case, I probably would recommend you playing Rogue Mage. I mean, this is just a $10 game, so right then and there, I thought that's a great price for the game. But they essentially give you 4 decks that you have to choose, and then as you play, you gain cards, or you can remove cards, or not with that, and gain an appreciation of how to build synergies that way. But yeah, you're right. Like if when you play like a multiplayer card game like Gwent or like Hearthstone, you do get really in the weeds at times. Like, oh, do I want to try this deck or play that deck? And I heard this deck is in the meta, so I probably should use that. But I really like this deck, so yeah, I understand that part of not being able to want to dive into that too deeply. Rogue Mage is $10. If you've ever been interested in Gwent and the multiplayer part is what's kind of shied away from you, I'd recommend it, but be prepared. It gets into the you really have to read on every single card and what it does to play the game efficiently, and to some that might be a bit of a hassle. So if you're really willing to dive in and play, I'd recommend it. But yeah, I'll even admit they didn't do such a great job of trying to springboard somebody into playing the game. So on that note, I mean, if you're already a Gwent fan, I think you've already bought it. But if you haven't, it's a good game. I enjoy it. Why don't we move on to the news, which is what we do all the time here at the Capital Games Podcast. The big story this past week had to do with Ubisoft. And it started out throughout the week, throughout this past week, I should say. Ubisoft announced that they were decommissioning multiplayer and DLC for specific games. Now, this has been a common practice in the past, I would say, 10 years, where a lot of multiplayer games from past consoles were I would say surprisingly still running. And then they announced, oh, we're decommissioning this. Like games like, I think it was Splinter Cell Blacklist was one, which was a 360 game. But their multiplayer is being decommissioned and stuff like that. And I think it was only for PC, if I remember. And
yeah,
then,
correct.
Yeah.
It was just strictly for PC.
Right. And then I think Anno, a version of Anno was also, its DLC was being decommissioned. So you wouldn't, and the problem became with that is not only would you not be able to download the DRM, or not download the DLC, in order to use the DLC, you would have to authenticate through Ubisoft servers. And if they're not processing those servers anymore, you essentially have no access to that DLC at all. So you could have paid, maybe you paid $50 worth of DLC on a game, and then that game gets decommissioned, its DLC. You basically don't have access to that $50 worth of content. So that was a bit of a controversy that happened, but that kind of died down until Monday, when it was found that 2 games from Ubisoft were not only being decommissioned on Steam, but even if you bought it, you wouldn't have access to it. And that was Assassin's Creed Liberation HD, I think was one, and Silent Hunter 5 was the other. Now, this became a whole controversy throughout the day. I think it was Monday when it happened. And then Ubisoft the next day went around and said, oh no, you misunderstand. That's not what that means. You'll still be able to play it. And they kind of danced their way around everything to say, oh no, you'll be able to still play it. That's not what that means. Even though it kind of sounded like still like when they at first showed it off that it was you weren't going to be able to play it. Period.
Yeah, I think it was sort of a bad play on them to use the term decommissioned.
Yes.
Because that started freaking everyone out because everyone was just like, what do you mean my game's going to be decommissioned? I freaking paid for this. And I think what made it even more insulting to people was that, gosh, what's it called? Ubisoft was featured during the Steam Summer Sale.
Yes.
And some of these games were literally on sale. So it was a real slap to the face for some people. They were just like, hey, this is bullshit. I literally just bought this game, and you're telling me that this game I literally bought is going to be worth nothing and unplayable?
Mm-hmm.
That is bullshit.
Yeah.
And it pissed off so many people.
Yeah, and this also adds to the DRM issue, which basically a lot of single-player games that Ubisoft has, including, I think, was Liberation, and I know for a fact Immortals Phoenix Rising has this too. There's DRM in that, so they literally have to ping a server in order for you to play the game. So if they decommission that through the servers, even the single-player games that you have are going to be unavailable to you. So, I mean, so here the reason why Ubisoft does this usually is because they advertise other games and other features on their games, essentially. So, like, if you're I remember when you play Immortals Phoenix Rising, they would advertise Assassin's Creed on there, say, hey, Assassin's Creed Origins is available, and you can play that too, and stuff like that. And, of course, for DRM reasons, I don't know, or for piracy reasons as well, they do that. But, I mean, this issue could have been solved simply by basically patching out the DRM as soon as you're done using the servers, and just specifically saying, okay, you don't need a DRM anymore, just play it. You're good. And then if you're worried about the DLC, you're not making money on it anyway, just patch the DLC in and say, here you go. You're good. I don't care if you bought it or not, have it. It's yours. Who cares? And be completely fine with it. But they chose to be I would say anti-consumer about this and basically say, well, we have no use for it, so we have no reason for you to use it. Okay, bye. And that's what a lot of people got pissed off about.
Yeah. So overall, this was just poorly handled by Ubisoft, and just they whoever approved this message, they need to fire their PR person and just hire somebody better.
You think this is purely a communications issue? Because I think this was this is what they were going to do, and then the backlash was so severe that they circled back and said, "Oh wait, can we do this differently?" And someone said, "Yeah, no, duh, we could do that differently." Oh, let's do that then. And I think that's what happened, really. Because I do not think this was communications. This was basically, this is what we're doing because it's the cheapest thing we can do, and that's it. And if you bought it, nuts to you. Who cares? I think that's what it was.
And that's a fair take too. My reason why I think it's a miscommunications issue is Ubisoft usually has its advice and rulings. They come typically from their headquarters out in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So usually it's just, hey, the Paris branch pretty much lays down the law. So that's kind of my thought on it being possibly just maybe a communications misunderstanding, but I could be wrong.
No, I can understand where that can come from. I guess I'm just more deeply cynical than that. So
yeah, I mean, I can be too, to be fair. So
yeah, but yeah, I watched this whole unfold, and honestly, after the backlash started, I'm like, oh, they're gonna turn this around in about maybe 6 to 8 hours. Just watch. It took a day, but they did it. But I just like, God, is no one really paying attention to all this and not seeing how screwed up this is? Now let me. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it was kind of funny because I believe it was when we were discussing this pre-show, you had mentioned that just some people were just kind of like going, "Well, what's the big deal? Just buy the Assassin's Creed Remastered collection. You
Right.
get Liberation for free in that package. So what's the big deal?" It's just like the big deal is it's your stuff. You shouldn't have to pay for your stuff again.
Yeah, you bought it, and you should be able to have access to it. And yes, I get it. We're paying for licenses to play. I get that. It doesn't make it any less fucked up that when you purchase something that you have access to it and that they can take it away from you even though you purchased it. Now I want to before we move off the topic, I just want to point out some people were pissed about like saying, "Oh, you should be able to run those multiplayer servers for certain games forever, infinitum." Look, I would like that, but even I admit that it takes some cost to keep those servers running, and if no one's playing those games and it's not getting any use, I can understand why they would say, "Oh, well, no one's playing Blacklist anymore, so we might as well turn off those servers." I mean, I kind of understand that. But at that point, another point I would take as well is if that's the case, then open source the code. So if someone wants to put that game online and put their time into it to do it, then do that. But they're not going to do that. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, why open source it when they can be real skeezy about it and find a way to somehow make you pay for it?
Yeah. Okay. So anything to add?
No, just I'm kind of glad for the players and consumers that this whole debacle was solved because really just Ubisoft's silence really spooked the shit out of people because people were just like, okay, so what does that mean? Just am I completely boned?
Yeah.
Or is this going to be cool? And you know, you're going to fucking figure this shit out and it'll be all right.
Yeah.
So I think that's really where things got really interesting. Just the matter of, hey, are we going to be fucked on literally stuff that we own, or are we just going to be completely in the clear because you guys just didn't know how to fucking communicate?
Yeah. I just want to put the notice that they have for Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation is now DLC from this product and online elements and features will become unavailable as of September 1st. The base game will continue to be playable. The funny thing about this is there's no DLC for this game or online elements. So I don't get why, if that truly was the case if that was happening and there's no DLC, there's no online elements, then why even announce that you're going to decommission this? Like this, I mean, I can see why you would think this is a communications issue, but I don't buy it. I think they literally, what they literally were trying to do is, hey, if you want to have to play this, Assassin's 3 Remastered is there. I mean, you can get that. So I think that was the play, and that was it. So, okay. Let us move on. An announcement happened this past week that a game that me and you are both familiar with, but unfortunately has lost a lot of popularity in the past few years, is Heroes of the Storm, or HOTS is what it's called colloquially with the fan base there. It was announced that they're basically putting the game on maintenance mode. They're not having any new major updates, no characters, no new levels. It's just going to be to a point where we're just going to make sure things run, and that's it. I know you had some things you wanted to say about this, so go right ahead, Zero.
For me, this one hurt a lot. Because when the initial announcement many years ago that, hey, we have been artificially propping up the esports scene in hopes that this would take off as an esports thing, and clearly it didn't. Well, we're just going to just outright kill the game, and for anyone who is excited about this game, we're sorry, but you know we just can't sustain the game anymore. So you know, just we're sorry about this, and there's not much we can offer you to allay your fears, but this game will just be kind of in life support mode. So, if you had fun, sorry, we don't have much we can tell you, but we're just gonna just keep doing this game as it is, uh, and if you'll stay with the game, cool, great. But if you're not, then we'll be sad to see you go.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, this was announced. This happened quite possibly at the worst time because this was during a BlizzCon, and there were a whole bunch of pro teams that were basically kind of wondering about their esports career if Heroes of the Storm would even be a thing anymore. And of course, what a way to be told, hey, basically your esports career's over.
Didn't they at BlizzCon say, "Oh no, we're planning something. Just wait, stay tuned. We're gonna have something."
Oh yeah, excuse me. That's how it initially panned out. So initially, a bunch of reps at BlizzCon had told teams that were like, "Hey, so is there going to be another pro season for Heroes of the Storm?" And the Blizzard reps had basically said, "Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's cool. And of course, I think a few weeks later, it was, "Hey, so we're actually not going to continue it. So yeah, sorry about that." And but here we are. Sorry, we're doing this, but yeah, we just can't sustain the esports scene, and just sorry about your luck.
Yeah,
and
this is a story about how basically the business model for the game was essentially esports first, than it was to make sure the game was fun. But the game was a fun game, but essentially it just felt like throughout the entire time it was less about it being fun and more about how do we make this a viable esports product so we can get eyeballs on Twitch and people buying shirts and people buying merch and stuff like that and want to be competitive in this. Like, they really... And I remember that's why I kind of jumped off the game after a little while, because it stopped being about, like, oh, this is like a fun alternative to League of Legends. But they started going that route almost of, well, we need to be ultra serious, so we have to do all these different things to essentially balance the game for competitive reasons. And a lot of times when you do that, it's less fun on like the more casual end, but more focused on, for people who are in competitions. So it was really strange to watch. And Overwatch is having the same problem too, I hear.
Yeah, and for me, it was a little sad because the last Heroes of the Dorm tournament kind of was a little bit personal for me because the finalist for the last Heroes of the Dorm tournament was literally a university that was very hyper local to me. And when I say hyper local, we're talking like it was literally 2 blocks away from my old rental house.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
So it was just so cool to just see them being nominated as like the champions for the Heroes of the Dorm for that particular season. I was just like hell yeah, local pride. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is cool. But yeah, I mean, after they announced that they were discontinuing the esports, I mean, a lot of people were spelling doom for this, but they did update the game a couple of times. They added new characters. I think they added a new mode, and they added more arenas to the game. But those were really slow getting out. So I think they also cut their staff by 30% at the time when they announced that the esports league was going. And yeah, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, this is going to go away pretty soon," because you don't pull this out and then think, "Oh, we're just going to concentrate on fun and hopefully people will continue buying." And that very rarely happens, unfortunately, because when you start taking things out of a game, usually that spells to somebody, "Oh, this is no good, therefore I should not even bother playing it."
Yeah. So, and when it sort of went into this whole we're not doing esports thing, and we're just gonna do occasional maintenance updates. We'll slow down character development. It was real bittersweet for me because for me, I had I'd really never liked MOBA games. Just I
Yeah.
really did, especially since a lot of my experience with MOBA games has been with League, and we all know how toxic League
Oh
players can
my
be.
God. Oh yes. I know. It's the base of the people who play League was the reason I got off of it. Not the game itself. The game is fun, but just dealing with people who are so damn competitive and toxic was just awful to be around.
Yep. So that was kind of where it went, and just I didn't really follow the game too hard, and it was just kind of something I just sort of quietly kept tabs on, and I was just like, I may not play Heroes of the Storm that often, but I'll I'd love to see how I'd love to see how it turns out, but
Yeah.
just I won't hold any hopes that things are great. But if they do something truly great, I'll be really really excited for it.
Yeah. But as of the announcement now, it's on maintenance mode. I guess I'd give it 2 years until they close it down.
Yep.
Because that, I mean, maybe a little bit longer, but when you put it on maintenance mode, you're basically hoping the fan base that's there will be okay to just completely play the game because they're just that addicted to it, or that's their comfort game, so they play it all the time. That they will want to purchase stuff just to complete the collection, and then when they have that, then they'll turn around and say, "Well, that's it, it's over," and then shut it down. So, yeah, I mean, it's sad because that actually was a really fun alternative to MOBAs. I had a blast playing it, even though I did not take it seriously at all. But it's just sad that something that actually was a lot of fun that will now just will be gone in about a couple years time. I know to a lot of people this was an irrelevant game for about I think the past 3 or 4 years, but it's sad. It's a fun game. It should have had a better fan base than it did, but Blizzard and Activision just gave it very little attention and love that it. I think it could, if it could have been bigger than what it was. But yeah, oh well. That sucks.
Yeah. So I guess for me, just when this announcement of hey, this game is going to pretty much be in maintenance mode forever. We'll do occasional tuning for just things to just keep it going. But yeah, just don't expect any more new characters, new bundles, new skins. Just there, keep your expectations dead low.
Yeah.
It just kind of saddened me, and maybe it's corny of me to say, but I fucking cried
Eh.
because
Yeah.
I put a lot of time into Heroes and absolutely loved it. Just absolutely loved the game, and for for the game to basically go, yeah, we're just not doing anything anymore. And this was the one game that got me really to love MOBAs.
Yeah.
It hurts so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. Okay, so since we're on the topic of games on maintenance mode, a big game actually announced that it's going into maintenance mode, and that's Red Redemption 2. Their online portion, Red Dead Online, from the beginning had problems. People were not happy with the monetization. There weren't a lot of quests. There weren't a lot of things to do in the game. And Rockstar promised that they were going to definitely build more to build up that game. Well, sadly, that didn't come to pass, and they announced this week that the game is essentially going to be on maintenance mode. So, basically, no new updates, no new quests. I guess shop items will just constantly refresh to the same things all over again. So, basically, if you've done everything in Red Dead Online, you're kind of done at this point. So, what did you think about the announcement that Red Dead Online was going into maintenance mode?
I kind of felt for the Red Dead community, especially since I believe the last major update that the game got was maybe a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly it was a game that was just completely neglected, and it in at least from what I could gather, it really hurt the community because the community had hoped that Rockstar would give it a little bit more love and care, kind of like how Grand Theft Auto Online had been given so much love and so much care, even though Grand Theft Auto Online is kind of ancient at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt for those who had hoped and prayed that Rockstar would do something, and here we are, just them just going, nope, we're just pulling the plug because this isn't a moneymaker like Grand Theft Auto Online. So yeah, for anyone who cared, sucks to be you, and you're just gonna have to deal with it.
I mean, to be fair, to Rockstar at least, and this is partly their fault too, I should say. But if the game's not making the money it needs to keep the servers up and to keep that mode going, I can understand the business sense of just cutting bait. But there is also the option of just saying, hey, why don't we actually put more effort into this? Because let's be honest. They have enough money over there at Rockstar where they could have put more into this game. But, of course, that's going to take a lot more effort to do. So I guess that's why they just decided to cut bait and say, all right, it's a maintenance mode. Whatever you want to do, you can do of what we have, but that's it. This coincides with the announcement that that Rockstar was developing remasters for not only I think it was Red Dead 2, but with GTA 4, and they canceled those. I read that, and I'm like, well, if they're putting the online on maintenance mode, I mean, there's literally no financial reason to go ahead and do a remaster of this, because honestly, Red Dead 2 still looks great on a PS4 and still looks great now on Xbox. So I don't see why you'd want to spend more money on a remaster if it's not going to improve the visuals that much. So I thought that was kind of a silly prospect in the first place, but especially now that since the online is gone, yeah, it made sense that the remaster is going to go away.
Yeah, all in all, just kind of sad though, because it just seemed like Red Dead Redemption was sort of the redhead for not to make an intentional pun, but it just seemed like the redheaded stepchild of the Rockstar games, and sort of landed itself in the same graveyard as stuff like Bully and Midnight Club and maybe Manhunt.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, I mean, there's going to be another Red Dead. I mean, the money, that game made a lot of money, and a lot of people like the single player a lot. And I knew somebody who was really into the first Red Dead Online, so and they were really addicted to it, and I think they did a lot with that game back then. So that's why I was kind of surprised it was on maintenance. They didn't do anything with Red Dead Online, because they clearly had a successful multiplayer version of Red Dead from Red Dead Redemption 1. So I just was surprised that it was bungled that badly. So yeah, that's again, it sucks. If you're a fan of the game, you don't want to hear that, oh, we're not doing anything anymore with it, so here we go. But on the other hand, like, if no business is coming out of it, I guess for business reasons, yeah, they're just gonna say, well, forget it. We're gonna just put this on maintenance mode. And yeah,
yep, I would pull the plug and save us some cash.
Pretty much, yeah. It's basically what they did. Not to equate Red Dead Online with Anthem, but they're basically pulling what Anthem did and basically said, how much money would it take to improve what we have and how much money would we get for doing it versus just pulling the plug and just eating the cost. What would we get? And they must have done the numbers and said, well, we were going to get enough, so we might as well pull the plug. So that's a tough pill to swallow if you're a fan, but unfortunately, that is the reality of the situation. So, anything more to add?
No, just it's a little bit unfortunate to see Red Dead sort of get this treatment, but again, just at the same time, when I look at it from the lens of a business standpoint, I most certainly understand.
Yeah. All right, Zero. Before we get to our next topic, I just want to say that this podcast is sponsored by, that's right, sponsored by the Capital Games Movie Club. That is right, everybody. We also, if you did not know, have a movie podcast called the Capital Games Movie Club, where me and Zero discuss and review a movie every week. This week, we're doing Crazy Rich Asians. So if you're interested in that, you may want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, or you can listen to it on the podcast feed and hear what we thought about Crazy Rich Asians. We've reviewed other movies, such as The Irishman, The Grandmaster. We did Iron Man. We've done quite a few around this time. It's a lot of fun. So if you want to know our opinions and comments on some of the best movies that have been made and some of the fun and popular movies, tune into the Capital Games Movie Club on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app. That is the Capital Games Movie Club. Okay, so on to our next topic. This probably be a quick one. Of course, we've said this before, and it turns out to be about a 20-minute segment, so bear that in mind. E3 is officially returning. So the ESA announced that E3 will be back on 2023 in June. And the big announcement was that Reed Pop is going to be... Is it Reed Pop, or is it...
Yeah, Reed
okay.
Pop.
Whew, okay, good. That basically Reed Pop will be the ones that will be running the customer version, or I was just the public version of E3. If you're not familiar with Reed Pop is basically the company that does all the nerd conventions, from the Star Wars Celebration to I think what everyone knows is PAX. So, what did you think when you heard that E3 is coming back and that Reed Pop will be running it?
For me, it was just kind of a, best of luck to you guys. This is really going to be interesting if you guys can pull it off, because the last few times that E3 has been a consumer show, it has, for lack of a better way of putting it, has been a shit show. Just, you've got journalists and industry professionals trying to clash for time to play demos and stuff on the E3 show floor, and just which resulted in long lines for just anything that was popular. So if you were wanting to play something that was being published or produced by Nintendo, good freaking luck if you were able to get through the line by the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was why I was just kind of like, that's interesting that they're having Reed Pop do it, but just best of luck to them, because they're going to need it.
I mean, the ESA is being smart about this by saying, okay, clearly we can't do this very well, so we need someone who can do it. So they pretty much they've hired the best one to do this. It was smart of them to basically say, hey, day 1 and 2 is for journalists, and then the rest will be for the public. I mean, that's the GameStop method, and that's probably the best method you can come with, because, you're right. Because what they were doing was unless a company had a behind closed door appointment for journalists, literally journalists had to cut lines in order to actually get to cover games. And that pissed a lot of people off, I heard, because there would always be a journalist who'd be like, hey, I have an appointment to play this game. Oh, yeah, cut the line. Here we go. And then you have all these people waiting to play Borderlands 3 and be like, hey, wait a minute, I've been waiting here for 3 hours. What the fuck? It's like, he gets it first. Sorry. So, yeah, I've heard of horror stories where literally someone went to E3, bought a ticket, and all they can do is stand on line for one game. And that was their E3 experience. I mean, that is awful. That is the worst experience you can have.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because in one of the old episodes of the Giant Bombcast, I think Jeff Gerstmann pretty much said he felt sorry for anyone who is trying to attend E3 as a consumer or just a gamer.
Yeah.
Because literally that, he was just like, yeah, I felt I think he said something to the effect of, I felt terrible, even though I technically had an appointment, but here I was having to basically say sorry. I got to get in because I got an appointment, and then just seeing a bunch of people getting real angry, going, "Dude, this stinks! I've been here all freaking day, and I can't even get in to play this. This is bullshit."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, it was a response to basically have Slapdash, the ESA, did this. Like, we know that they did this specifically because they were desperate for cash. So, and the ESA being the lobbying arm of the gaming industry, something that people tend to forget when they say that E3 is done and it's not coming back. E3 will always come back as long as the ESA is its lobbying arm, because the companies will want to put money into the ESA to defend them from getting regulated. So as long as the ESA is around, the E3 is here. So get used to that. But yeah, basically, they had a serious issue when it comes to basically advertising what the hell E3 was going to be. Like, the E3 had an identity complex for the past, I would say, especially during the pandemic too. Like the past few years, it was rough. People were like, if everyone's doing these online streams, I mean, what's the point? But I think if you would ask any fan, would they prefer the online stream or would they prefer an E3 presentation? They would probably say an E3 presentation. And E3 for a long time now has been considered the mecca for gaming, where you get to play all these new games that are coming out before it's released. And how cool is that? And people had those dreams to do that when they finally made it available to the public, and they bungled it big time. So if they're going to make it into a PAX-like presentation, I mean, that's probably their best business bet. I'd really wonder what PAX is going to do if this is successful. What they're going to do different if E3 does a really good job. But yeah, I mean, this to me was this was a good sign that the ESA is doing this intelligently and correctly, and that they hopefully have a good idea in place. Now, what do you think this means for Summer Games Fest?
I think Jeff Keighley announced that he would still be doing it.
Oh yeah,
but, yeah. I think that'll still be a thing, but overall, it'll be interesting because I think there's been supposedly word that a few hundred companies have signed up to do this whole E3 shindig. So we'll see how this pans out.
Yeah. I think next year it's definitely going to be there. My question was, after the announcement that it was returning, was, well, who's going to go to E3 and who's going to go to Summer Games Fest? Or are there going to be a lot of people, are there going to be a lot of companies that are going to try and do both? And are there going to be times where, let's say, a company is going to say, if you're going to announce it here, you can't announce it at Summer Games Fest? So what's that going to do for Keighley at this point? Because let's be honest, Summer Games Fest worked because there was no E3. I'm really curious if it's going to work with an E3 there. Because if there is an E3, I mean, at that point, most companies are like, well, I pay the ESA my dues anyway, so I might as well utilize E3. So, yeah, I'm going to be really curious as to what happens to Games Fest after this. So
yeah, I think one of the things that Summer Games Fest did right was was working with publishers to get demos out for anyone who couldn't attend the conventions and stuff. Because at that point, you could at least play some of these cool-looking E3 demos that the journalists were playing, and instead of kind of going, "Oh man, this sucks. I just wish I was able to do this. This sucks. E3 is the dream. I'll never be able to do that." People can kind of get E3 at home, to use that terrible meme.
Yeah. All right. I mean, we can't really discuss whether it's going to be good or bad or not because we don't know what E3 is doing right now or ESA is doing. So we'll know next year whether it was worth the time or not. But this isn't a surprise to me. Like, this is... I've been calling this since everyone was saying, oh, E3 is dead. No, it's not. They're going to try and... they're going to keep doing this until it becomes financially infeasible to do so. So if they start losing money doing E3, that's when the ESA is going to turn around and say, oh, forget this. We're not doing this anymore. Anything more to add?
Nope. Just we'll be seeing what they do next year with going back to the convention floor space. So
Yeah.
we'll see if it ends up bringing the hype back, or if it's going to be just a wow, they really got lazy and just kind of phoned it in with gosh, what's it called? Reed Pop sort of doing things. Nice. Okay, well, um, I won't say no for them trying, but this could have been so much better if they actually put in the actual effort to make a good show.
Yeah. Okay, let us move on to our final topic. And our final topic, basically, GameStop had announced layoffs at the beginning of the week. And it turned out that it was mostly corporate layoffs, and I think it was 3 layoffs at Game Informer, which I got to be completely honest. I thought Game Informer had a skeleton crew already, and the fact that they got rid of 3 people, I'm surprised that Game Informer is still around. But anyway, yeah. So GameStop announced layoffs, and what made this really puzzling was after they announced the layoffs, they rolled out their new NFT marketplace at GameStop. So they're going all in on NFTs, it looks like, as a potential money-making opportunity for the company. Okay, Zero, got comments for the layoffs from GameStop?
Yeah, I'm with you on the whole Game Informer thing. I had not realized that they were operating on a literal skeleton crew, because I know every time I go in just for like a game or two that's way under market price, I usually get the upsell from the GameStop rep of, hey, just go become a pro member. You get all these perks and benefits, and just there's also the benefit of you get the free Game Informer magazine to keep yourself in the know about all the cool video game news and everything.
Yeah.
So that was something that I had always been used to, and I was just like, okay, sounds like that's still a thing. So just I guess that's doing okay.
Yeah.
And then of course, you said, oh yeah, by the way, did you know they have a crew of 6 people? I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah. I heard that somewhere, so I'm not entirely sure that's true. But I know for a fact, I know that they essentially are running on a low crew for that magazine, which if you've had the magazine come to your door recently, you'll see how very little there. Like, I think it's like a 60-page, 70-page magazine, and half of it's ads. So it's really, yeah, I was really surprised with like the amount of people that work there. But again, I'm also completely surprised that it's still running at this point. I really wonder why GameStop, when they're clearly trying to get out of the video games business to a certain extent. I really wonder why they're keeping Game Informer at this point. Not that I want people to lose their jobs. I would hate that. But at this point as a business, I would look at Game Informer and go, I don't understand why we're keeping this. Why? Maybe we should think about either selling it off or essentially shutting it down, and maybe integrate Game Informer into GameStop, like have them write blurbs about a game and what it does or whatever. I just don't understand why they're keeping it.
Yeah, it's a little bit strange, but I mean, there's no real clear rhyme, reason, or logic with how GameStop is being run. Especially, I know Reggie was on hand to sort of try to get the brand to repair itself and sort of come with a more focused strategy and everything. And then of course, he ended up just saying, "Yeah, you guys are don't really want my advice, so I'm out of here."
Yeah.
And it's just kind of one of those things. It just makes you wonder, just what are they doing? Because not to get on an NFT tangent or anything, but uh, NFTs are not in a great place right now, especially with a lot of them just sort of nosediving.
Yeah, they
But
recently didn't NFTs essentially lose 40% of its value in the past month or so. I think I'm not entirely sure what the exact number is, but they crashed pretty hard in the past, in the past month or so.
yeah, they're definitely not in a good place. But yeah, for them to make a big deal about just, hey, we're doing the NFT thing, and I think on opening day they barely made $40,000. It
Mhm.
just makes you question just the logic of going this hard into it and not really getting a guaranteed return from what it feels like.
I'm really wondering what they're doing with this. Like, there's a part of me that just wants to say, okay, give it a chance. Maybe there's something I'm not getting. Maybe there's something there that I don't have the mind to compute. But every time I think of NFTs, I just think scam. I can't help it. I just look at everything around it and surrounding it, and just think scam each and every time. Like I don't know, man. Again, want to give the benefit of the doubt, but there's nothing in this that I look at and go, oh, I see what they're doing. Okay, I understand now. Like, no, every time I read up on all this, I'm just like, shit, man, what are you doing? Like, what exactly? Like, yeah, what exactly are you doing here, and how is this going to help your business? So and some NFT bro is gonna be on here and like, yo, man, it's the new craze. I'm like, yeah, dude, that doesn't tell me anything. So I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, uh, and I part of me almost wonders if Reggie may have told them, "Hey, maybe do the NFT thing under a sub brand. Don't taint the don't taint the GameStop brand, because that still potentially has value if you pivot it carefully. That you guys aren't just a retail store, because I know at one point they were thinking of doing like a LAN cafe sort of thing, where you could basically just kind of go in, pay time to play on like a completely tricked out gaming machine, and bring consoles, and they would have like local tournaments. They would work with potentially tournament organizations like the Capcom Pro Tour to sponsor locals or something.
Mhm.
But at least that's the feeling that I get with some of the discussion on how Reggie was trying to advise uh, the GameStop leadership and everything. But we'll never know, since all that stuff is under NDAs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. I mean that's basically all it's gonna be at this point. Is we'll have to see what happens, and then yeah. It's sad that a lot of people went. I think people were glad that the lowest, not the low. What I mean by lowest is the lowest paying employees, the people who work in GameStops. I think I was glad to hear that not a lot of them that got fired, so that's good. But man, I know people personally who still work for GameStop, and I sometimes ask them, like, how are you doing? Like, you guys feel okay with how things are going right now? Because I'm looking at the outside looking in, and I'm like, this isn't great. So, yeah, I don't know. Uh, Anything more
Yeah,
to add?
I think if anything, I just plain feel sorry for all the retail employees caught in the crossfire of this whole thing, because just it's not a great situation knowing that your job's being hung over your head, all because just leadership is sort of floundering about, not really knowing what the fuck to do.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. I mean, this has, unless we're missing something, this has the potential to be a disaster. And if this doesn't work out in, like, say, 9 months' time, I can see GameStop saying, "Oh, we're getting rid of the NFTs and let's lay off 20% of the workforce and close about 10% more of the stores because this didn't work." Like that's what I'm really afraid of. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because if this whole NFT thing blows up in their face, that's absolutely what's going to happen. It's just going to be, oh yeah, so we tried the NFT thing and it didn't work. So, all right, let's start the layoff cycle and start laying off people. And sucks for anyone who is hoping for better, but not much we can do. So, suck it up, guys.
yep, that's essentially what's going to happen. And I mean, yeah, look, I am hoping it works out for the people who work there, but man, that's gonna be tough when that happens. Anyway, let's move on. We're at the end of our episode, so Zero, as always, I have a question for you.
All right, shoot.
So, as you know, I am on a kick of roguelikes because I'm enjoying Gwent Rogue Mage. So I was playing this game and I thought about how many games or game types have been turned into roguelikes. But there's a lot that still haven't. So my question is to you, what game franchise or what game type would you like to see turn into a roguelike?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Especially since there's a very wide gamut of things that I would love to see. And my God, just you may have to go first because I might have to think on this.
Okay, so my immediate answer was sports games, and I'm gonna explain why. So basically, a sports game, like when you kind of think about it, no, not really. Actually, I was gonna say they're kind of roguelikes already, but not really. But what I would do, and I'll use MLB The Show, of course, specifically. What I would do basically is in the middle of like when you start a run for a roguelike run, you would start with, let's say, a bronze team, like a low level team, but add one really good player, and then or one good player, and then try and beat a team in 3 innings. And then when you do that, you earn a card. You get to earn a card and upgrade your team, and then like basically you have to go to the next team that you have to defeat in 3 innings, and you keep doing that until you hit a boss filled with super teams and a hard difficulty with great equipment, and you'd have to try and beat them for a piece of mega equipment or something along those lines, and go from there. I think sports games would actually work really well in a single player roguelike kind of experience. So I guess no, not really. There's not really any games I can think of that do this. But I think if someone was smart and they want to add single player content to their sports game, that might not be a bad idea. Because like you're still playing the game, you'll get to earn currency while you're playing, and you're having fun while doing it. It'll be a great mode to try. So I think in a sports game specifically, I think a roguelike would work.
Yeah, actually, that would be a great way to remix like a career mode in some of the sports games and everything. Just because I know you've got stuff like NBA 2K, which has the My Career mode,
Yeah.
where you start off like as a custom rookie character, and you sort of work your way to through your career to the pro cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just changing that up and making that career mode into a roguelike would be really interesting to see. This one, I actually now have a thought on what would be interesting to see, and this is probably going to sound really fucking nerdy of me, but
Okay.
I think bullet hell shooters would be great as a roguelike. So something like R-Type, Gradius maybe, just turn that into a roguelike. So just instead of saving your options or your loadout to your preferred loadout, just having to deal with the item pickups always changing every single run, and might be fun because at some point you might get a godly run and just get like the death ray package where you're just blowing up everything. But it may make you super delicate as a glass cannon because your hitbox is fucking gigantic. Or you could have like this really agile, nimble build that you can just avoid and evade bullets because your hitbox is reduced to like almost the size of a single pixel, but you've really got to work it with your weapons and everything.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, that sounds cool. I'm actually surprised no one's done that.
Yeah, I am too, especially just with how popular bullet hell games are in Japan and everything. Just especially on the fan game stuff, because I'm surprised none of the Toho Project games have actually run with the idea, and there's a lot of love for the Toho Project stuff.
All right. Well, in that case, that does it for this episode of the Capital Games Podcast. Tune in next week till we talk about the happenings and news that happens in the business and culture of the video game industry. I am the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
And we'll talk to you next time. Goodbye.